get into 2018, I think it's really important. It's also an awesome opportunity to kind of reset your mindset, reset your business, kind of really go after things with a new kind of energy, I guess you'd say. And if you don't have that mile marker in your business where every year you have kind of a cyclical reset, it can be tough. I mean, I see a lot of guys that go 3 or 4 years into business and they're never even kind of like, every year just kind of rolls, consider their mistakes, want to make changes in every year. So this webinar is designed, pretty convenient at a time of year where we can really get you guys thinking about 2018. What are some of the initiatives and goals that you guys want to make change in your business for next year? And how do you take that kind of like thoughtful, like I really want to make these changes, and actually build them into your day-to-day calendar in your life so that you actually do make change? I find a lot of people, whether it's a personal New Year's resolution of losing weight or going to the gym or building the business in a certain way or hiring a certain staff and employees to pull themselves out of the day-to-day, it's all exciting and new ideas, especially through Christmas when you have space and time to think about that stuff. But as soon as the going gets tough again during the year, it gets dropped and things don't kind of come to fruition the way you hoped. So you're always kind of repeating the same stuff, hoping for change. So hopefully this webinar will give you some insight, some tools to kind of make some change in that. So speaking to that, the purpose and outcomes of this is what we've just been talking about. So give you the ability to break down your business plan into a simple weekly path, because having a business plan is one thing, but using it is a whole nother thing. And that's what I hope to really kind of bring to this, bring to everyone's attention and give you guys some tools to work with. That'll help you do that. Ryan has raised his hand. Ryan Goodson, do you have a question? I'm not sure. Ryan, if you have a question, maybe throw it in the chat window. Maybe you're just trying out buttons, but I just saw your hand raised. Outcomes of this. So I want to give you guys 2 things. One is like the fundamental tools of what we call priority management. That's different than time management. It's how do you manage your priorities throughout the year. If there's one thing I've seen the most, especially with people in trades and home service companies, and I was one of them, I ran a painting company for many years, is it's seems to be that everything's always in reactionary mode. You're always just reacting to things, putting out fires, and it's really tough to kind of prioritize what's even important and put it in front of you because you just have no time to do that. So we're going to talk about how to help with that. And the most important thing is, which we just talked about, is how to break down your actual goals for your year into like daily tasks and kind of get those moving properly. So, okay. Now everyone's here probably because we've emailed you at some point. Maybe you saw us on Facebook. Maybe you have a friend who told you to come out to this thing. But what you're about to listen to is a segment or a part of what we do at this company, which is called Breakthrough Academy. So I'll speak to this briefly, and then we'll probably talk to this a little bit more at the end. But what we are is an organization that's solely focused on like trades and home service companies and developing their businesses essentially. So people in like landscaping and painting and renovations, any kind of home service, so things like junk removal and window cleaning and things of that sort. We help people in those organizations really figure out how to build a real business. Why we created this? I mean, I was 18 years old. I started a painting company at a very young age. Ran extremely hard, worked 80 hours a week, had no life, made a lot of money, but didn't really feel successful because I had no real life and I had no space for myself. Learned a lot, went through a lot of training and coaching and development courses. It was actually a part of a franchise organization, so I actually had a coach established to me. And over the course of 8 years, helped build that organization from a small little painting organization in Abbotsford, British Columbia, to helping oversee all of Western Canada and a huge amount of operations. We had about $11 million a year that was happening. I was in charge of a lot of the recruitment and development of that. And it was just an amazing opportunity to really understand how to lead people, how to prioritize my time, and how to really, be a leader in business. And I find a lot of people start a trade or start their own kind of like small trades or home service company because they're skilled in a certain way, but they grow it to this big organization over time and they lose control and they don't know how to run it as an actual business. And that's kind of what we do as an organization. So most people we work with are about $500,000 to $5 million in revenue. They're all, like I said, in trades and home services. A lot of them are younger. I mean, I'm 30. A lot of people we work with are kind of in the 30 to 40-year-old age bracket. But at the end of the day, everyone we work with is just very open to new ideas, ready to engage and try something different in their business. And yeah, they're experienced. They've got a lot of success under their belt, but they're trying to take that next step, I guess you'd say. So that's kind of our world. But we'll talk about more of that in the end of the webinar. But you'll see, I think from today, we've got a lot to kind of go through, and it'll give you guys a good taste of what we do as an organization as well. So that is BTA. Benji, anything to add or comments on that? Or
well, yeah, I'd love to do a quick transference for all of everybody on the call. Like, I'd just be super curious. Oh, here it is. Next slide.
There you
go. Just want to get a feel for what kind of if you guys are entrepreneurs, if you're business owners, if you're part of a small organization, just really kind of, I'd love to. So if you guys can just in the chat window kind of answer, what you do, just give me a quick kind of sentence on what your world is. That'd be awesome. So we kind of know who we're talking to today.
Awesome. Yeah, so let that kind of go.
Yeah.
So just think through for everyone. So what would be some of your biggest business challenges that you had in 2017? And just looking forward, like, what do you want to get out today to help you in the future? And Benji, if you want to read through some of the stuff that's coming in.
Yep. So guys, go to the chat window. Just quick sentence. I own okay, cool. Cabinet making company. Awesome. Thanks, Aiden. I know we have someone from the Canadian Home Builders Association here as well. Any other entrepreneurs or business owners or people involved in trades and home service? Cool. Training leaders in the company. Plumbing, awesome. Electrical home services, cool. We got a landscaping company. Drywall repair and garage storage, cool. Executive officer at Canadian Home Builders. Wholesale flooring company, cool.
Looking to leave office life and grow my painting business. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Aiden's looking to hire our first employee. That's awesome. Super exciting. Industrial maintenance, millwright, design build reno company here in Vancouver. Awesome. Contractor. Awesome. That's great, guys. Cool. It's a good audience.
Sweet, guys. So like what we're going to talk about is this transition that people take. And what it is I'll even speak to it from my own story, but like there's this transition that happens for everybody that goes from like grassroots entrepreneur, which is like you're the doer of all things, you're the best at everything, you're in charge of everything, you're the last guy that makes all the results or all the decisions for everything. And some of you have done this and some of you are probably in the transition of doing this, but transitioning into more of an enterprise level entrepreneur where you're more the builder of good systems, the developer and leader of good people, and they're the people that go and do things all day, every day. And that transition is complicated. There's a lot that goes into it. And I'll tell you, it's just a personal story on my end. Some of the biggest challenges I had before I implemented a lot of what we're going to talk about today was I just worked too much. Like I worked probably literally 80 hours a week for about 6 months of the year. And it was ridiculous. I lost my gym schedule. I lost, thank God I didn't lose my wife. I lost a lot of like love with my relationship and with my girlfriend and now wife at the time. And it was a challenge because the business took over my entire life. I went through a program in the organization I was with where it was basically helping me with prioritizing my time and building a strategic plan for the year. And after 2 years of working 80 hours a week, almost pretty well straight for 6 months during our busy season, I finally made some big changes. They really taught me how to look at my year ahead of time. So basically schedule out what's going to happen a year ahead of time, build out my goals so I knew what was coming up, build out all my initiatives so I could figure out kind of what I needed to achieve. And then from there, I built into my calendar like a mastermind, battle plan basically for the year. I built in key themes each month, so I kind of knew what I was going to be working on, and I was starting to get proactive versus reactive. Took me about 3 months to even get ahead of my 3 months of doing basically what I was doing is I was filling out like a big business plan, and then every week I had to fax in my agenda of how I was executing on that business plan. And if I said anything or did anything wrong in my plan, they would call me out on it actually. But it took 3 months to even see any results. Like I literally had to spend 3 months of just like working hard to get ahead of my game again because I had so many fires to put out still in my day to day. I was still working 80 hours a week. But what I started to notice is after like spending a bit of extra time every week on focusing on what's coming up ahead of me and starting to plan out what actually matters in my business and not just getting distracted with shiny objects, I started to work less, and that diminished from 80 hours down to 40 hours a week. We actually grew the business. At that point, we were about 1.3 million. We grew it to about 1.7 million, and I had a life again. And it was probably one of the most impactful things I ever could have done for myself. I mean, I'm naturally, for those who know me on this call and anyone who probably will get to know me over time, like I'm a very go entrepreneur. Like I like to push, I like to make decisions quickly, I like to make things happen, but I'm not as much of a thought processing type person where I want to be proactive, I guess you'd say. So that's my natural personality. And I had to learn over time how to be more proactive in the way I do everything. And that changed me in a big way. It also allowed me to run a much larger organization, and to the point where, at one point in that world, I was running an $11 million, or helping anyways, build an $11 million a year painting company with the organization I was with. So anyways, if that speaks to anybody, if any of you feel that same kind of passion and flair and also challenge, you're not alone. Most of the people we work with are kind of in that field, and that's my story, and that's a big part of why I'm a big believer in what I'm going to talk about as well. So Cool. As I've been talking, Benji, any comments or things to bring up from other people?
Yeah, just a couple of thoughts here. Matthew Senth has just said biggest challenge, focus on marketing on the type of client and job we want. So just kind of working through the transition of taking anybody at like that really grassroots level of entrepreneurship to really understanding your target market, marketing to that exclusively, and slowly just transitioning to only taking those people. And then we have a couple of other questions. Lewis, I know you're asking about like getting painting leads. A little bit off topic, but I will absolutely put some time together and we can talk to you about that outside this call for sure. We definitely have some thoughts on that. Yeah, another big challenge here from AJ would be biggest challenge in 2017 was implementing systems in the first year for what would work for us. So
yeah, it's kind of a dance, right? It's like one is like you have to ask yourself, like, what are the 3 or 4 things that actually matter for next year? And trying to clutter your mind or get your mind out of the clutter of like all the other things that could or should be. And you have to know where you're at in business too. I mean, in your first year, you don't really need to build all these fancy standard operating procedures and job descriptions and training models and all this stuff. You need to like go out and get work. Just like get work, pound it out hard. But in your 3rd, 4th, 5th year, you need to start to transition away from that. And if you've been pounding hard for years, it's mentally, it's hard to shift actually. To like take your mind away from being like, I actually don't need to book all the work. I need to get an estimator to help me with that. I actually don't need to do all the jobs that come to me. I need to only work with my ideal client and service them properly and build a product or service around that. And start to be a little more like, not fussy, but like diligent with your time and being willing to say no to the right things. In the beginning, it is kind of a crapshoot. I'll say, like in your first couple of years, it's just go out there and work hard. I mean, most entrepreneurs, if you can just do that, they can get to that first level of success. But after that, it's about knowing what to say yes to and what to say no to, and getting rid of what we call entrepreneur ADD, right? Like another darn distraction. And ultimately, for a lot of us, we have squirrel syndrome. Like we have to learn how to focus on what really matters. And again, that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
So cool. Yeah. Should I move forward or any other little quick things?
Yeah, we can move forward. I would love to. Well, Russ, we'll definitely talk about the issue with fixing some of your subcontractors' mistakes. We'll chat after the call, but that's a really common one as well. You having to go and correct some of your subs work. So thanks for sharing, guys. Keep the comments coming, and we'll be checking in every few slides to just kind of keep the discussion going.
Awesome, man. All right, so I figured the best way to talk about this topic is a company that I talked about in the last session I did on the 3 biggest mistakes. And it's funny because it's kind of like I use them as a model, but they're a really good like idea of what actually can happen in a business if you focus and put the right things in place. So this company is called New Vision Projects. They're based in Tsawwassen and Ladner. There's 2 owners actually. One's named Brandon, one's named Danny. They were some of our first clients actually. So we started this business 3 years ago, and they're through mutual acquaintances, some of the first guys we ever brought into this world. So it's good. Like I met them over breakfast. I remember just chatting with them, talking about their challenges. And 2.5 years later, we've brought them from a $500K a year business to a $2.2 million a year business. And when I first met with them, it was pretty much these 2 owners, Brandon and Danny, just doing everything. They're both doing each other's job too. Like there was no clear description of who does what. They're both running projects. They were both, doing estimates. They were both managing client complaints and inquiries. They were both doing everything basically together. They run a renovations business, and they were both essentially good renovators. So they were just doing what they do best, their day-to-day job. Their cash flow was always tight. I mean, as they were growing, they were taking on bigger projects, and the money of labor and material that went into those projects was sucking up any profit that they were actually making. So they may have been a little profitable on jobs, but just their cash flow was tight because they kept reinvesting it to the next project as they're doing bigger jobs. And really, for a lot of them, for both of them, they're just putting out fires all day. Like if you looked at their agenda, it was just reacting to stuff that was happening all the time versus like being proactive in their calendar. So not only did we grow their business, but we worked a lot on the internal structures for these guys and helped them really understand what was really important. So one of the first things we did was help them find some of the right people. I actually got job descriptions for each of them set up first. So actually Brandon went into more of a sales role. Danny went into more of an operations role. From there, we tried to find some key people and staff to help take over their jobs, especially as I got Brandon selling more. We brought in enough work to hire a few key staff. And 2.5 years later, they've got 9 staff hired who basically have job descriptions, and they all do their job to the point where except for, I think Brandon's still doing some estimating, we've pretty much pulled the owners completely out of the day-to-day. To the point where Danny, the other owner, he lives, I think it's 4 hours away in a place called Armstrong in the interior of British Columbia. So he runs everything remotely. He has numbers coming in online through CRM system or project management software called CoConstruct, and they run their business and their people. They're not doing things anymore. They have an administrative assistant. They got 2 project managers. They've got 2 lead hands, and they've got 2 skilled carpenters, and they run the business. What's really neat is we've been able to, as we've done that, maintain cash. So these guys pretty well have a steady cash flow of about $200,000 of a float steady in their bank account. So they're able to, reinvest, build, do bigger projects. And actually for the 2 of them this year, they're looking at building some, doing some development now. So buying some land, doing some subdivisions, and using some of that money to actually get to the next level in their kind of world. So, but really, I guess what I'm saying in a lot of this is these guys have taken time to build into their company. They've got clear roles. Everyone's got clear goals. There's clear deliverables for everyone in every part of their organization. And they're not the only ones running the company anymore. There's 9 people helping run this business. And it took a lot of foresight and a lot of extra work beyond their day-to-day to get that figured. But it's the stuff we're going to talk about today that are going to really enable that to happen. So I'll try and reference them as we go through it. And I've also got their strategic planning file. I'm going to kind of give you guys a peek into as to what that actually looked like that they actually planned out, and give you guys some examples on that as well. So sound good? Cool. Okay. So just quick as we jump into it, but the agenda, we've talked about it. I'm going to help you guys set your goals for 2018. I'm going to help you guys break those goals down for 2018. So you actually have like a list of things you need to execute on. I'm going to show you how to use this now in the real world. So leaving this, it actually gets used day to day in your calendar and in your agenda. Okay. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about setting goals. The first thing when anyone's setting a goal, and I'll just give you some foresight here. As I'm going to talk through this, I'm actually going to ask you guys to give me, through the chat window, some of your goals for 2018. So as I talk through the SMART goals, I'll just explain what SMART goals are. Just start to think for yourself too, like what are some of the goals that you have for 2018? I just want to get everyone to share that in a little bit here. But when you're setting a goal, it's really important that you use this thing called SMART or SMARTY to make sure it's the right kind of goal. I find a lot of people set very loose, kind of like fluffy goals. Like, what's your goal next year? I want to be more successcel, like
more organized.
Yeah, like
we got to communicate better.
Yeah, like it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean anything, right? It's just like that's very fluffy. That's not very tangible. You can't measure that. There's no way of knowing whether or not you hit that. And it may make you feel good and safe to set that kind of goal because there's a lot of flexibility, but it isn't really going to drive results in any kind of specific direction, right? So here's some of the things that really help in doing that when you're setting a goal. And again, I'm going to give you guys to type in some of your goals in a second here, but as I go through this, just make sure it kind of fit this type. So the number one thing for your 2018 goals, it needs to be specific. So $2.2 million at a 40% gross profit, right? So that's a very specific in it. It's something that's like even on the next one, which is very measurable as well. So I can actually measure whether or not we hit, we missed, whether we got close and how close we got. It's a very specific and measurable goal. What also is important is that it's attainable. Now, this is something that I find for a lot of people, especially when they're first setting a goal. It's November 22nd. You're like, 2018, like I got this. Like I got a whole year ahead of me. I could achieve anything. But be realistic. Like look at what you've actually done in the past and just bump that up a little bit. Like 10 to 20%, maybe 30% on the high end of growth. Like people need to be very realistic and make sure that they're setting goals that are actually attainable. Because what happens if it's not attainable? 3 months in, you're going to be so far behind, you're just going to lose heart with the goal, and it's going to be super disheartening. So make sure it's something that you can actually hit and achieve. It maybe still challenges you, but it's something that is still doable within a given fiscal year. The other thing is just make sure it's relevant. And this is kind of a funny one, but how many goals do you think you have or have set in the past that really had nothing to do with where you are today? It's interesting. I watch a lot of people that really do struggle from like what we call like squirrel syndrome or entrepreneur ADD, where they're like, man, I want to do this and I want to do that and I want to do this. And, it's like, is that really relevant to where you're going? A really good story of this is a client that we work with. He's building an awesome painting company and they're killing it and they're doing really well. They've got some improvements to make for sure. But one of the things we did is start to get them tracking their numbers a lot more. So we helped them build a master business planning file where they could track their numbers, track their profit, track everything. And the owner got so engulfed in this Excel file that we built for them that he went and built like it to the nines. Like I think he literally spent like 6 months rebuilding it to the point where he could track every little thing. So he knew how many applicants he needed to get that right, and many hires, like everything was self-calculated. And I was like, what have you actually done in the last 6 months? And he's like, not a lot of that stuff, but man, I know the numbers. Like that's not relevant to the goal, if that makes sense to everybody. So just be careful and make sure that you're doing things and your goal itself is actually relevant to where you're heading. Next thing is actually timed. So most of us need timelines because we're procrastinators. Going all the way back to high school, I mean, most people, some people were, proactive about this, but most people crammed last minute. That habit has never left people since they've started their businesses, and time frame to hold, we're actually going to get something done in a timely manner and not just let it slip away. And this is also why I recommend having, like, at your year end, and I always think of January as our year end, but at our year end, it's kind of like a reset time. It's like, that's the goal we need to hit by this time. Once that's done, let's reset the goals and go for something next year. So it's not just a wash and we're never really achieving anything by any given time. And the final one is something that not everyone teaches when they go through something called the SMART goals, but is why. And this is more of a headspace one, but it's why are you doing what you're doing? How much time do you spend working on your business, hiring, developing it, growing it, working on your family, whatever it is that it's important to you in life? Do you know why you're doing what you're doing? I know, I'll tell you guys actually personally, last night I was up with my wife till 12 o'clock at night just chatting. We have a new baby coming. We have our third kid coming actually in April. So I'm not wasting any time making kids. But we've also got this business that's been growing almost 100% every single year. We just sold a piece of property. We're going to buy a bunch more land in the Okanagan. And we just really sat down with each other and we're like, what is actually important to us in 2018? Why are we doing what we're doing? Does this business need to keep growing? Do we really need to go invest in all these properties? No, what's important to us actually was I want to make space and time to be there for my kids. My third kid's coming at the end of April. And I want to build a business like the business, this business that we have, Breakthrough Academy. I want to build it in 2018 in a way that allows me to create space to be there for my family. The last couple of years, my why was I wanted to grow this thing. I wanted to see it, create, change in a ton of entrepreneurs' lives. And I still want to do that, but I need to do it in a way that allows me to have time for my family as well. So my goals going into 2018 are actually going to involve a lot about this new child coming into our world in April. So it's kind of a bit more of a headspace thing, but it really makes sure, do you have a real clear why to why you're doing what you're doing next year? And there'll be a different focus next year. Our year next year is going to be a lot less about just bringing in more members and more about refining the processes and building into our team and getting everybody to be more self-sufficient so that me as an owner, I have some space to enjoy my family. So does that make sense to everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Any thoughts on that or questions?
I just tie something in with the why. A huge part of the reason we have that is the pursuit of this goal is always, there's going to be parts that are really, really, really difficult. And having a reason why is what helps you get out of bed in the morning when it's rainy out and you have to go do 7 estimates and you really don't feel like you have to let go of an employee or you have to just put it into overdrive. Is what, if you don't have that, it's so easy to crumble. So I think that's a really, really good point.
That's a good point actually too, Benji. We all go through the shit is basically what I call it, right? We all go through, and we don't always maybe talk about it publicly, but man, I know that there's 38 people on the call right now. I know that every single one of you running your business has stretched you to the limit. Right. I bet you none of you have been oh, it's been smooth sailing, it's been so easy, and maybe if you're just getting started potentially, but I bet you after 5 or 10 years of running a company, you will be pushed to the utter limit, and you won't have anything left. You won't fully remember why you're doing what you're doing, and some of you might be even there right now, and that's totally normal. I've been through it many times. Almost anybody, I think, year with a clear goal and understanding why you've done what you've done, and you've written it down. Going back helps you kind of get energized again. So it's a good point.
Yeah. Russ has just brought up a really good point, which is that it doesn't always have to be a financial goal. His main goal for 2018 is to work in the business full time and quit his job. Right. So that that transition is your main focus. And a really good point, because a lot of the time we'll see guys get fixed on a top line number. A lot of people want to be big. They want to push the revenue, when actually the smartest thing to do in their business that year might be to just redesign the organizational structure or make 2 new, really, really good hires for the long term. And it doesn't always have to be a growth sort of bigger is better mindset. A lot of times you can have just as meaningful or maybe a more meaningful goal that's anchored around something non-financial.
Cool. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. So if you guys want, I see some of you already doing it, but maybe just if you guys want to type in some of your goals, some of the things that you guys are trying to achieve for 2018, just to give some ideas. And Benji, if you want to read through some of them, just examples.
Yeah, I'd love to. So two main goals for Matt. First one is to spin out our development branch. find some investors, set up the agreements and contracts, find the project and execute. And then 2 would be bring on better, more lucrative, more interesting projects. Cool. Aiden's got a lot. This is an ambitious year for you, Aiden. Cool. Goal 1, hire on someone to help with client management, design, scoping, and estimating. Goal 2, launch our website and update platforms. Goal 3, create the framework to track each jobs profitably. Create 4, a process for getting before and after photos and client testimonials. Aiden, type in below. What kind of business are you in? Sounds like a painting company or something design oriented. Cabinet making, right? Okay, cool. Rebrand the website. Have clear descriptions. Sweet. Yeah, clear job descriptions for employees. Great goal. Greg wants to do 1.1 mil, 40% GP. Nice.
Awesome, good. So all good examples, and what I'm going to show you is a bit of a split on this, but all good examples of key goals for the year. And I'll say a lot of you actually wrote what I would call initiatives, and I'll go through what that is in a second, but all of you are on kind of the right track. So let's get into kind of what that looks like. So one thing we're going to cover today, we probably talked about earlier, but we're going to talk about strategic planning and building a business plan for next year. One of the tools I love to use is what's called a one-page strategic plan, and it's actually built off a book that's out there called the Rockefeller Habits, or Mastering the Rockefeller Habits. So we've kind of like tweaked it a little bit to kind of work for us and our members, but the idea is gold, right? It's basically taking all your ideas, all your initiatives, all the things you want to do, and trying to get it on one page, so that it's so simple to understand that you can explain it to your team easily. You can have it hanging up in front of your computer every day, and it's not some big, thick book that you never look at again. Having a goal and a business plan that actually like relates to you and it's simple to reference and read. So what it kind of looks like is this. Let me just pull it up here. And I'm going to send you guys a copy of all this at the end of the session as well. So just make sure you're around for that. I'm going to get you guys to fill out a little thing to grab this from us. But it basically allows you to break down your goals into a way where you have your values listed here, your big, hairy, audacious goals. That's what BHAG stands for. Your 5-year-old goals here. Your purpose. So this is kind of like your why, and a lot of the reason why you're doing what you're doing. Your annual goals stated here. So these can be a little more numerical up above. And then your initiatives down below, which I'll explain in a bit, which break down into your rocks and your quarterly goals and so on. And there's a theme off to the side and how you're going to celebrate if you guys hit some of this stuff. So there's a few things in here I'm not going to go over, which is critical numbers. It's something a part of a longer session that we could do. But today I'm just going to help you guys understand, like, how do you set a goal using this thing? How do you have a purpose behind it? How do you build that into initiatives, key rocks, and then break those rocks into tangible things you can go do every day? So I don't know if anyone's seen this thing before. It's definitely a very useful tool that we've used a lot in the past, and it really helps, I think, center your thoughts into one kind of harmonious like idea and one piece of paper. So we're going to start with these annual goals. So basically, it should be smart. It should be about a year long. It should be something that you do for one fiscal year, and like we talked about earlier, it should be a clear why as to why you're doing what you're doing. So an example, like I said, would be maybe a certain amount of profit. Here's a live example. So somebody's put in the revenue, and I'll use this to work off of this, but this is kind of like an example of Brandon and Danny's goals. So like the revenue goal, and they also had a hiring goal. So they wanted to hire a certain amount of people within that fiscal year. So any thoughts on this so far, questions on this? And anything coming through, Benji, too, worth kind of talking about?
Just some more really well thought through goals here with some numbers attached, which is really good to see. Quite detailed and well thought through. So that's really good.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, but the concept makes sense, I hope, to everybody. So like your annual goal goes here. So you'll see the sheet. We'll send this to everybody. So put your annual goal here, why and your purpose right here. And that's kind of what I've marked.
Do a quick definition here for Matt. Gross profit would be like the job, the money you're making off of the job before your fixed overhead expenses. Danny, do you want to unpack that a bit more clearly?
So what we want most people to understand, the difference between gross profit and net profit, I'll do this quick, and it's a bit of a tangent, but it's important. When you do a job, let's say painting, because I've done painting for many years and it's a pretty simple idea to understand. A customer gives me $2,000 to paint their house. Well, I got to go spend money to paint that house. So I've got to pay for the guy's labor, home. I've got to paint itself, and maybe even some of the sundries like rollers and things like that I'm going to use up on the house. So it's the profit I made after spending those three things. I got $2,000. 1,000 of I spend of it on paint and materials, and another, I don't know, say 300 or whatever. So let's say another, what would we be at? Even numbers here. Let's say another 300 on other, like sundries and stuff like that.
Rentals, whatever.
So I've spent, rentals. So I've spent $1,500 to produce that person's job. So all the costs that I just mentioned are directly related to producing that job. So if I was given, $2,000 to do the job and I spent $1,500, I have a gross profit of or 25%. Which if I was a painter, that would actually be pretty low and I'd be kind of concerned. But, at the end of the day, that's what gross profit is. It's the profit you make after producing a job with the costs that are directly related to the job apply. Yeah, if that kind of makes sense. Any questions on that?
I think we're good. Yeah.
All right, let's keep moving forward. So that's a good number to understand, and then eventually a goal. So what do you do with these goals? Well, once you start to define them and you start to make sure that they're smart, like we talked about earlier, the big thing is, the reason I went through the smart thing is not to just write in a goal and just move forward. It's like, make sure that they're actually smart, that they're actually specific, they are measurable, they are attainable, it's relevant to where you're heading, there's a timeline attached to it, and you have a clear why behind it. Once you've got that kind of going, the next thing you want to do is you want to build in initiatives. And what initiatives are, and actually, to be honest, there's a lot of you that typed in a lot of awesome things there, but I think that they're probably a little bit more relational to initiatives. And initiatives directly relate to the annual goal actually happening. So this could be something like building your management team, increasing productivity by 10%, start marketing on site, whatever it would be. These things relate to that. And I'll give you some good examples here. So for this company, they're trying to hit like revenue and net profit and a certain amount of staff. Their why is that they want to give everyone an opportunity to live a healthy environment. So they've got a really good staff environment, and they treat their people actually extremely well. So they want to hire more people, they want to make more revenue, more profit. But what's going to allow that to actually happen? Just by putting it up in the air isn't going to like make anything real. What you need to think about are what are all the things that go to implement that stuff to make it real. So here's a list of their 2016, this is from a couple years ago, this is a list of their 2016 initiatives, okay? So these initiatives directly relate to the goal and they impact the goal. So let's read through some of these. They want to develop and implement the implementation of a standardized training program for their workers. They want to develop and implement a priority management system so that they can manage their time better. They want to finalize systems for the business to train employees and staff better. So they want to put in some technology. They want to develop ads for hiring and start to interview 1 to 2 potential people per month. Interview 1 to 2 potentials per month for hires. They want to develop and implement accountability systems for their employees and help them with their performance. And they want to set up SEO for their website to maximize their leads. So if you think about these initiatives, do you think they will help them hit higher in revenue, a better profit, and help them hire more people? Probably. Like they're all related to that, right? But they're all things that aren't so numerical. They're all things that have to do with activities and initiatives, and we call them initiatives, but like activities that you need to do to put into the company to structure it better. And so what we want a lot of people to do is, have a target, have something specific to go for, but then break those down to specific things you're going to go and achieve by the end of the year. And if you do these things will assist in helping this become real. Does that make sense? Become real and at the same time help the purpose become a real purpose. Like they're investing in their people, they're investing in their systems, they're investing in taking time to do things right so they can provide an awesome, healthy working environment for their people as well. So they're all kind of interconnected. Does everyone kind of see how that works? Cool.
Yeah.
Any questions on this before I move off of initiatives? That's good.
A good way to think about initiatives are like the ideas that just like pop into your head when you're driving to a job site, when you're like up at night, like just thinking you're too busy like painting the house or building the cabinets or like installing them. And it's like you need to collect all those someplace, and this is the place to do it. And you want ideas or like projects. It's like homework outside the business.
Awesome. Good. I like it, man. It's good. It's just like, I need this. You know what? Like make a big whiteboard of all those ideas and just write them all down on the whiteboard, and don't necessarily go do them right away. Just write them down, let them ruminate for like a month or two. But when you come to do your year-end initiatives and your year-end goals, pick the ones that matter the most, because you'll realize most of them are just, harebrained ideas. Only a few are really going to get you to where you want to go. So good point. So what do we do from there? So we've got these initiatives. These are kind of like the big things we want to do for the year, like the big projects that we want to take on. Well, we need to start to get them in place. So rocks is the next thing. So we want to take our initiatives, rocks. So rocks are related to each initiative. The only difference that you're going to focus on in any given quarter, right? So they might be to hire that production manager, to develop a team training program for them, to build site presence and do certain things to get your, like, you know, your truck logo or your signs, you know, signs out, or shirts on all your guys, or door hangers out. But there's specific things you're going to do within a quarter. So if you look here, this is their Q1. So this would be like in Q1, in the first quarter of the year, they want to hire 4 of their, oops, you have logged in from another device.
Maybe your phone.
I don't know. Am I still, you can still see and hear me though?
Yeah, I can still see and hear you.
Okay, weird. Okay, we'll just keep going and hopefully you don't lose me. Okay, so these rocks, what these rocks are, is these are key things that are basically, there's somebody else that came in under my account.
Yeah, I think he's coming in on your account.
I'll just mute them anyways.
There you go.
There. Okay, let's keep going. So these rocks are things that are going to enable you to actually do these initiatives, but in a given quarter. So now we're saying, hey, all this stuff is big picture stuff. Like it might take a year, it might even take longer in some cases to get this all done. But let's say just this next quarter in Q1, what do you want to do? Well, man, we got to hire 9 guys. Let's try and get 4 of them hired in that first quarter. Let's try and get our work off of the tools and doing that. So as we hire these 4 guys, let's spend 50 hours a week working still, but let's try and do it off of the tools. Let's try and use priority management and set up like a 2-week schedule all the time to help us in doing that. Let's train, put a training program so we can actually train these 4 guys properly. And let's use our daily operational systems with these 4 guys that we've just hired. So this is kind of like a very tangible thing you're going to do in the next quarter that all revolve around a lot of these initiatives, but just the miniature version of that, like the startup version of that. Is that going to make sense to everyone? So it's like big goals with a clear why, initiatives like the big projects for the year that are gonna make those goals real, and then this quarter, what are the things you're going to tackle? What parts of those are you going to tackle? And sometimes it can be a little bit of all these initiatives. Sometimes it can just be focusing on 1 or 2 of these initiatives and ignoring the other ones until later in the year. So, is this good? The reason you want to do this is and again, it's going to take time to do this. Like you guys, we do this with our members in January. So we actually have a summit. We take them all to, I think this year we're going to Banff in Calgary in Alberta, but we're going to take them away for 3 days. And we're just going to basically focus on like, what are your key initiatives for the year? What are your key goals? And what are the rocks you want to put in place? And there's a full day committed to doing this thought process. So it's not just like a quick thing they scribble down on paper. Like they're thinking through this. They're working with groups of other members and entrepreneurs to think through what's the most important stuff to focus my energy on. And then we finally finalize on, hey, starting this quarter, where are we putting our effort and our energy? Because we only have so much of it. So that is rocks. Questions there? Any other thoughts on that? It's good. Okay, cool. So where else am I here? Next thing to go over is how do you use these rocks and actually break them down into clear tasks and actual things you can do every day. So every rock you have should be broken down into kind of like a roadmap of little things that you need to do, like tasks basically that you can put into your calendar. And eventually, once you have them all written up properly, you can create a critical path, and that can make it to into your calendar. So I'll show you what this looks like. And again, I'm going to send you guys this example so you can really analyze it later. But basically, we've taken these rocks, like these 4 rocks right here, or 5 rocks right here, and we create a rock breakdown tab. So each rock, like hiring staff for operations, set up, co-construct, owners working less, working for 50 hours per week, less on the tools. Each idea then comes with a list of things you need to do. So if you need to hire staff for operations or 4 staff for operations, well, what do you need to do? Well, you need to create some job description. You've got to create a job ad. You probably got to pre-screen the candidates that do come in. The interviews, you've got to select your candidates. You got to do an employment with them. You got to train these guys. You have to have a schedule for them to kind of go through, so you know when you're going to train them and how and what you're going to do each day with them. Physically do it every day. Train these guys. So who's going to do that? Well, it looks like in this instance, it's not me, but Danny Christian, the other owner, is going to take the onus of that. And it looks like roughly he's got about 8 weeks to do that in. And he's planning in week 3 to kind of start launching a lot of this stuff. Does this kind of make sense? Danny is going to be, or Brandon is going to be working a little bit more on their setting up of their CoConstruct. So Danny's going to help with the initial setup of it. It's like the CRM system, and Brandon's going to be training and getting kind of people using it on an ongoing basis and exporting stuff. So they're not only deciding what do we need to do task-wise to get this stuff done, but they're also deciding who's accountable for it and what week are we going to start getting it done. Does this make sense? So you're really getting granular now. I know somebody said very detailed earlier. Hold on, we got a lot more. It's about to get a whole lot more detailed, right? Because this is the stuff, this is the real stuff that actually allows you to go and do something. Like, have I created a job description? Well, I could probably block out 2 to 3 hours to create a job description in my calendar, and that can be a thing that I can actually get done to make sure I hire these 4 staff for that first quarter, right? So what do I do with this? Well, once we got all these breakdowns of these rocks kind of thought through, we then want to create a critical path. So this is what a critical path looks like, and it's the exact same thing. It's all this stuff that we just said we were going to do. The only difference is it's organized by what week we're going to do it in. So now we can see, hey, in week 3, here's what Brandon and Danny are up to. So beyond the day-to-day operations, beyond taking care of everything, they've created some space in their life and in their calendar for these things to happen. And whether they're realistic or not, here's the opportunity to start to look at that. In week 3, is this too much to do in week 3? Should we spread this out a little more? And the reality of the work involved in making real change and lasting change in your business starts to really hit people in the face. I can see what's really involved. So I'm going to pause for a second, but just questions on this or thoughts on this, or just any comments from anybody on this as we're going through this. I've gone quite detailed at this point, I'm sure, for a lot of us. So we started with a goal for the year. We've kind of got our clear why. That's then built from like a list of initiatives or like projects that we want to work on to help that goal happen. That then helps us think through this next quarter, what we're going to physically do to get part of those initiatives done. That then helps us think about the actual like block scheduled ideas or things we need to do to make each rock happen. And then that is then organized into a critical path where we start to see how much work it actually takes week to week to achieve all this stuff and help us time it out properly. Is this good?
Yeah. Peter wants to know if you're a no detail person, have no detail orientation, how do you suggest implementing this? I think Danny can probably speak to that.
Yes.
Because he's the worst.
I'm the worst. I think it's very important for everybody to know that I'm actually like I don't know if you call it certified, but I'm actually diagnosed dyslexic. So I'm fully fledged like a dyslexic person, whatever that means to all of you. Some of you probably are as well. And I'm undiagnosed, but I've noticed I've had a lot of tendencies of what people have when they have ADD. So that makes me a great entrepreneur. That makes me a great startup person to get. Yeah, awesome. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs are. I think a lot of entrepreneurs are dyslexic and AD. I think it's like, it's called the CEO syndrome. But it helps us start things. It helps us get things rolling. Unfortunately, it stops us from being able to achieve greatness in our ideas. And there's 2 things that I've done in my life to really help me with this. One, since I was 18 years old, I've had a coach. So I've had a business coach since I was 18 to help me move through a lot of my own personal barriers and challenges. And they've bettered me, man. They've held me accountable. They've made me like realize my weaknesses, and I can't hide from them. Like they're on me about this kind of stuff. And these business coaches are polar opposite. They're good at the stuff that I'm not good at, and they're holding me accountable to being more structured and organized. And like I said earlier on this call, like I took 8 months to learn this process, and it wasn't so much hard to it took me about like a week to get this like idea written down and get my business plan written up. It took me 8 months to get into the habit of doing this regularly, of like actually like every week scheduling my calendar properly, block scheduling my life, and making sure I was actually adhering to my block schedule and doing things that were actually impactful to the goal for the end of the year. The habit thing, and it was tough, man. Like I am not naturally wired to do this. This was a very abnormal thing for me. I had to do it because I was just working too much. There was just no other option. It was like, I'm working 80 hours a week. Our business hit 1.3 million. I was capped. And the only way to grow up from there was for me to get more, I guess, efficient with my time. I can't be the doer of all things anymore. So I had a coach that helped me through a lot of that. And the second thing I did is not only beyond a coach, but I've surrounded myself, and to this day, I've surrounded myself with people that are like the most amazing polar opposite skills and strengths to me. So you'll meet some of them if you ever come through our process of learning about BTA, but one of them is Caitlin Kaufman. and she's unfreaking believable. She literally has so much detail orientation and so much understanding of all the fine details of things that I can just relinquish my brain from it. So I'm the kind of guy that likes to pace in a room and talk. Well, my assistant Caitlin or Andrea, who does marketing with us, they can write down all these ideas and put them into nice compartmentalized realities. Without that, they're just harebrained ideas. So I've got an amazing team that I've hired that is very different than I am skill-wise. Very similar core values, but different than I am skill-wise. And to add to that, I've literally, I've partnered with a guy named Igor Trininek and James Dale, who I used to work with at College Pro, the company I used to be with, but they're polar opposite to me as well, especially Igor. He's my business partner. He has, a large part of this company, and I have totally happy to have him a part of that. And I don't ever want to be the single owner of this company, because I just know I'm so skilled in certain things. I need help in the other stuff. And to have somebody that's in there with me on both, a team level, but also at an ownership level, it makes a big difference. So I've surrounded myself with like-minded people that have polar opposite skills. And I've also been coached by somebody who holds me accountable to become better for myself. So does that help everybody?
Yeah. A couple other things here. Aiden, I don't think that you need to scrap Trello in using this. I think you can probably use them in tandem and have it supplement this. But I think that this structure is better for executive level approach to your priorities. Whereas Trello, you could use inside of this, if that makes sense. And then, Matt, I don't know if you can clarify the question, but what he's asking, I'm not sure if you totally get this. How often is the critical path where the rock is considered to not be viable?
So you're like trying to hit it.
Here we go. If you find you're continually having to revise for time or for success on a particular rock, when do you abandon it? Okay,
right.
Thank you.
Okay, that's a really good point.
A really good question.
So we're going to talk about this in about 20 minutes here. I actually talked about like changing the plan to hit the goal versus changing the goal to hit the plan. So that's a great question. Like what's in control? The dog or the tail that's wagging, right? So if you're busy trying to hit like a year-end goal and you're so focused on an initiative or like a rock that's just taking you down the wrong path and it's just not helping you at all at this point, or you're not even making time for it because it's just not important, yeah, you might have made an error in judgment in that rock. What matters more than individual rocks or individual tasks is the actual like goal itself. This goal is the beer of all things. It's like this thing matters more than anything else. And so I might sometimes change an initiative or especially a rock because I realize it's not as relevant or the timing of it is just not as effective. Here's one thing I will tell you, and I've learned this from years of running businesses. Even me, after doing years and years and years of this, I'll set up, say, rocks for my quarter, and I still don't get all of it done. In fact, I'll say I've realized, and probably a lot have seen this in running a company, every new idea that you have tends to take 3 times as long as you thought it would to implement and tends to cost probably twice as much. It's super common. And that's totally okay. So I think at the end of the day, just make sure the goal isn't missed to hit the rock, but the rock could be missed if it's hindering your ability to hit the goal.
Yeah, if you're missing it every time, it's an indicator that it's probably not important enough yet. It's probably a great idea a year from now or 2 years from now, but it's just not. It's like maybe you're a bit in front of it. Yeah.
It's going back to the SMART goals of making something attainable. Sometimes we have these big lofty ideas when we have time to think about them, and then when it actually goes into the time to implement them, we don't have the time. So that's why it's always good, like just reflect as much as you can before you write all this down on paper to like spread it out and really see how realistic is a lot of this stuff. Or is it actually, when I put it down here, it looks great, but the minute I put it into a critical path and realize, hey, week 3, I have to do all these things, I can only maybe do 1 or 2 of these, helps you realize maybe this is a bigger project than I realized and I should spread this out a little more. So it's a really good question. And welcome to the reality of running a company. Like there is no, teacher looking over all of us, telling us exactly when something should be done. So we have to set up our own parameters of what we think is realistic. And if we screw that up a bit, totally valid and pretty common. We just got to readjust the best we can, but really keep our eyes on the goal for the end of the year. It's one of the big things. So
cool.
Gotta go. So Lewis, we're gonna send out, just so you know, we're gonna send out all these templates to everybody. Before you leave, if you do want them, what you got to do is you just got to register. I'm gonna talk about this in a second, but Lewis, since you're leaving, I'll talk about it quick. Go to what is it again here, Andrea? It's btacademy.com/request, I'll just put it in the chat window. But if you guys want the templates we're going to go over, I'm about to go over a whole bunch more templates too, actually, for planning. Just go to that site and you can fill it out and get all the templates here. I'm just going to put it in the chat window. Actually, Benji, can you put it in the chat window?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can.
You can. btacademy.com/request. So cool. Yeah, so check that out. You can get the templates from everything from today. It's also going to enable us to talk to you later. I'll talk about it at the end of the webinar, but you'll see that as you're filling it out.
Yeah.
It helps us know.
I gotta hop off too, Danny, and do this next meeting. But
okay, Benji, you jump into that. I'm going to keep rocking with everyone. Let's rock and roll.
See you guys.
Okay, so let's recap a little bit here. So what have we been talking about? We've been talking about a one-page strategic plan that helps you build initiatives and rocks, breaks those rocks down into key ideas. You build a critical path, and from that, you can actually block schedule stuff into your calendar. So it starts to look something like this, where you've got goal setting going on a Monday with you and your team. You've got time to coach your team throughout the week, and you've got time to build new systems in the business. What I will say about this is not what I expect anyone on this call for their agenda to look like right now, but this in about 3 years could be a good goal to go for, where you set goals with your team on a Monday, and then you have your weekdays to go work with your team and develop them and build systems in the afternoon. And this is kind of like the ideal agenda, I'd say, for a lot of entrepreneurs that are in a growing business. So yeah, so that's kind of how it all starts to come together, is you basically go from big picture goals all the way down to block scheduling stuff into your calendar. And I'll show you even here for me, this is literally my calendar. So here we are right now doing the webinar. Tomorrow I've got a bunch of different meetings going on. I've got, drive time for different events that I'm doing. I've got time off with my wife, and we're going to go to Harrison Hot Springs. I've got time to work out in the gym, but everything is revolving around a goal being hit for the end of our year for BTA. I've got time for goal setting with my team on Monday. So we could do what's called GSNR, stands for goal setting and review. So there's Benji, we do GSNR in the afternoon on Monday, and then we go out and do our day-to-day activities. And then we've got space in between for planning and stuff like that. So I actually always put time in my week. It's called plan to plan time, where I'm planning out the next week coming up. So what I'm going to do next, I'm going to shift into a little bit of a different idea or topic, which is how to use what we've just set for goals into your daily agenda. Before I do, any questions on any of this? And I can actually read the questions now. So, Andrew, you'll moderate for questions? Okay, cool. Andrew, do you want to come on audio?
Yeah, I've got you here. I'm just going to keep myself muted when I'm not talking, but yeah, I'm watching for questions, so feel free to keep them coming, guys.
Awesome. Yeah, so any questions on this or thoughts or just general comments on this concept or idea? Does it feel relevant? Does it feel kind of too overwhelming and something you wouldn't do? Does it feel simple, something you could sit down and do over Christmas? How do you feel you guys could use something like this? Everyone's thinking. Question about Trello.
Danny, maybe do you want to share a little bit about some of our members who have kind of been working towards that ideal block schedule that you've put up, sort of what that journey's been like for them?
Sure. Yeah, because reality is pretty intimidating for a lot of people. Year one, here's the thing. So this is like a 3-year thing. Year one, if you can take 5 hours a week to work on your company, so that could be half of your Friday, whatever it is, that's a pretty big win. Year two, if you can take a full day on a Monday to coach your team and set goals with them and get them set up properly, and maybe 10 hours during the week to work on the company, that's a pretty big win. And by year 3, if you can get to a place where your team is operating all the day-to-day activities and you can pull out of the day-to-day, you can kind of choose how much time you want to spend week to week. That's kind of the goal for year 3. So year 1, just try and carve out 5 hours a week just to work on some of this stuff, just to get the basic infrastructure set up. Year 2, spend a day coaching your team to get them kind of moving on their stuff, and then still try and spend maybe 5 to 10 hours a week on your own building systems. And year 3, the idea or the goal would be to have you out of the day-to-day. Your team running it, you're coaching them on a Monday to keep them motivated and driven, and you're just spending the rest of your week working on the business systems itself. So does that help?
Yeah, I think that was great. And Dwayne, you had mentioned you're kind of a production kind of person, so looking towards building a block schedule like this is a lot, but you're working towards it. I think that's pretty common for most entrepreneurs, because as Danny mentioned, you kind of start in that production mode. You kind of start being needed in the field, and it's easy to just kind of stay there, right, instead of working to build your business differently.
Yeah, it's that classic thing, right? It's like, are you doing the same thing expecting a different result? You're going to go insane, right? Everybody says that, but it's super true. Try doing something a little bit different. It doesn't have to be I'm going to spend 20 hours a week on new stuff, but try spending 5 hours a week on new stuff and watch as slowly your business changes. I mean, every 2 weeks, we coach our members, and every 2 weeks they're held accountable to different initiatives being implemented and different ideas. We're tracking all their numbers along the way as well, and we're slowly changing their behaviors and their patterns. And it's interesting, like, I mean, we've got good content, we've got lots of great ideas to offer them, but what's creating most of the change is these guys and girls that we work with, they're already like uber implementers. They're already uber, like, they do a lot of stuff in life. We're just changing their activity to go, working on the site to working on the company, if you say. So
Aiden's got a really great question. How do you prevent interruptions? Because I think a lot of people experience when you try to implement a structured plan like this, he's indicated here, I mean, you end up getting interrupted with a lot of firefighting needs instead of doing what he had scheduled.
Yeah. The reality is, man, especially in the first few months of doing this, I had to work overtime. Like, I had to do this on my Saturdays. I'm not a big believer of working, especially Sundays. Like, I take all my Sundays off. But I worked on my Saturdays. Maybe you do quotes on Saturday. Like, I would just schedule time for myself on Saturday instead of quotes, and try and do quotes on Fridays. You have to get away from the day-to-day a little bit, and it is hard in the beginning because nobody else understands and they all demand your time. I would just literally make a rule with all my team that Saturdays I'm off and I'm doing my own thing, so don't call me. Fridays, Thursdays, it was always hard to do that because they were still in day-to-day operations, but if I could get away on a Saturday, it was like the best space for me. I didn't want to continue that. To this day, I don't work weekends anymore, but I had to start with that to get the ball rolling, and then from there I could create enough independence in my team that they could at least, like, not have to call me every freaking hour of the day. And I was able to do stuff on Fridays and Mondays and different times of the week, but in the beginning it was on my Saturdays, so that helps.
Matthew, you had a question here as well. You'd said, should we be looking to replace this with something else? Do you mind just giving me a little more detail in the chat window here about what you mean by that, and we can make sure that that question gets answered? And then Danny, I was wondering, I don't know if you're going to do this, but maybe chat a little bit about some of these templates that that people will be getting. There's a few comments on how some templates or structured resources would be helpful to implement some of this stuff.
Sure. So yeah, let me just go into a few things about this. Basically, what we're talking about right now is different ways to spend your time. And right now, most of us spend time in this kind of like high urgency, high importance quadrant. We're all kind of like running around. It's super important. It's super urgent. We have to do it. There's no excuses. I get it. The goal and idea is that you can start to spend 5 hours of your week in this like not urgent, not important area of your life and start to work on different business systems. So one of the things that I've done for you guys is I've given you a bunch of stuff to work on that can get the ball rolling. So let me give you an idea of what I'm going to send your guys' way. So one thing is this. So it'll help you guys take your goals. So not only have we sent you like a little strategic planning form, which I was just going over with you, this whole one-page plan. So you guys can start with this. If you're finding a little bit of a different format, here's a different, like, simpler format where you're just putting in your goals for, annual goals, your quarterly goals, and your weekly goals. And then you can actually sit down and plan out what happens when. My business partner does this. Not everybody does this, but if you really like this idea, you can actually plan out how long each thing's going to take, and then you can schedule it into your calendar. More importantly, I've put a document in here that's a pretty big game changer for a lot of people. This is what we call the master business planning file, and this is something that we use to really help our members. And especially if you're looking at this and you're like, I need help with this stuff, I'll talk to you guys about it in a second about how we can help you. But for free, I'm going to get everyone this, and it helps you plan out your year. So it helps you have all your goals listed here. Helps you have your actuals to date live updated here, and I'll show you that this happens in a second, but this will basically self-calculate for you. So you can have your sales and production metrics here. You can have your financial metrics here. And you can start to see how you're doing versus your goals. And then this down here gives you a place to set goals each week. So what's your primary and secondary goal? Did you hit or miss? Why? And what can you do about it moving forward? And then that allows you to readjust goals for next week. So this is a form that we use for all of our members, and we coach them using this. For a lot of you, we probably will end up talking to you if we're interested in chatting with you here about BTA, or Breakthrough Academy. But this is what we use to coach our members, and I'm going to give it to everybody for free, just so you guys can have a piece to this to work off of. It goes through different implementation items and different things you should be working on. And I've literally gone in here and actually made an entire implementation list for you guys of all the different things that you might want to be working on in your company to help structure it better. So you can reorganize it for what time of the year you want to work on it. But this is all the common stuff that we see with a lot of our members, and this will really help you know what kind of stuff to be actually working on. To help you even further, there's a lot in this thing. So we've actually got a place for you to write up your budgets. So you can actually put in like the revenue from last year, the variable expenses from last year, the overhead expenses from last year. You can see how much profit you made. So this is kind of like a P&L. If you have a QuickBooks or something, this will kind of give you this info, but you can put it in here now and see what percentages were spent on different things. And this really helps our people plan out their financials for next year. So we can see here, we've got this guy trying to double his company year over year. You can see his expenses. He's planning out how much he's going to spend on each individual thing and how much margin. So here's gross profit margin. This is actually a really good example of variable expenses and what gross profit margin actually is. And from here, you can actually see how he's actually doing. So we give everybody a chance to not only build a plan from last year, but actually see what they're actually doing. And how we do that is you have a section here where you can actually fill out your job cost cards. I know I'm going through this pretty quick. This is probably something, if you're interested in talking to us, we're going to go through in detail together. But I don't know how many of you do this, but you really want to have a place to track profit. So we've got a place in here where you can track the job, you can track how much dollars are spent on labor and materials, and you can see profitability-wise how profitable you were per job. So every single job tells you, hey, we made 60% profit, we made 11% profit, and all the totals add up here, and they add up here for you. So you can always see how profitable you are per job, but also as a business if you're on track to hit year end. With all of that, you can start to think through, your revenue. So how much revenue you need to produce for the year. So say if it's $1 million, you can actually just type this in and it'll automatically calculate how much revenue needs to be produced per week and how many hours with your crews need to be produced per week. And you can adjust your seasonality. If you have seasonality, you can adjust it through just typing in a different percent of year end, and it automatically adjusts what you need to hit every week. So this will actually help break down some of these numerical goals, so you can see what you should be doing, and in the blue, you put where you're actually at. So you can say, hey, we're at $123,000 produced on a goal of 140. You can see if you're ahead or behind on goals. And same with sales. So we built something so you can actually break down your sales process. Let's say you're trying to go for $1 million and you have an average job size of say $5,000. You can automatically dial in exactly how many leads you need per week, exactly how many estimates you need to do per week, how many jobs you need to book per week, and how many dollars you need to book per week. There's quite a bit in this form. But as you learn how to use this, it actually allows you to completely predict the future, see where you're at versus where you need to be, and then have a dashboard here that culminates all that data and helps us actually coach you. So this is a tool that we use. This is one of many things that we do with our members, but this really helps us as coaches coach our people regularly and see where they're at in their business and help them get ahead. So at Breakthrough Academy, we have 130 companies we work with. Every single one of them have one of these. We host them in Google Drive, and we can see live. And I think it helps for them to know where they're at and for their team to help organize their team better. But it also helps, I think, for the owner themselves to basically make sure if they're ahead or behind on a goal, they can see it within a week and kind of get back on track. So it's got everything for you. It's even got an organizational structure chart in here, which helps you think through what everyone in the organization should do, what their goals should be. Obviously, this implementation list, you can figure out when you should be implementing certain items, how much revenue you should be producing and by when and how much. For sales, how much you should be doing by when and how much. You can build a budget for the year. You can track job costs and how profitable you are per job. You can even track overhead in here. And for those of you who have cash flow issues, you can even track your cash flow and project when your cash flow is going to be high or low. So I can give that to all you guys just because it's an awesome tool. And now that it's built, I might as well give it away. But there's a lot into this. And if you want to learn more about it, we're going to talk about how to kind of get involved with us a bit, but it starts with a conversation for sure.
I'm just going to jump in and share. So it looks like there's quite a bit of excitement about this MVP file. Russ was saying that he got this at the last webinar and has been using it. It's been useful for him in his business, but just if you want this MVP file, just make sure to fill out that form that Danny's going to show us at the end of the webinar here. You'll have to request the templates to come along with this webinar.
Do you want to put it in actually? Do you want to put it back in the chat window in here?
Yeah. I'll repost that. I'll repost that link, and you're welcome to go request it now or wait until the end.
Okay, cool. Actually, you know what? There we go. I got it. I think, did I get it in there? I don't think I did. No, I'll let you do it. Oh, I got it. There you go. We both got it.
Okay.
So yeah, so go there if you guys want to get that form as well. There's a bunch of stuff I'm going to be sending you guys. So where is it here? Oh, here it is. Okay, so basically what we're going to send you is everything that's in this files for download. So it's going to have strategic planning forms. It's going to have a PDF and Excel version for you. Block scheduling example. It's going to have that master business planning file. So that file I just showed you. A strategic planning example. So the thing to allow you to basically break your goals down a little bit, and a task breakdown example, and a tools worksheet, which is tools worksheet is something we didn't cover as much today, but it's basically different ideas and things you can do to schedule your time better as well. Yeah, so there's a lot. So Merry Christmas. Yeah, everything's included. So go to that link and you can start to fill it out. I'll explain a little bit more about BTA here as well, just so you guys understand us. We're here obviously doing a webinar to find members. We grow quite quickly, and we have been for the last couple of years, and we do these things to give you guys a good insight into what we're doing and how we can make impact on companies, but most importantly to like create lasting impact on somebody. Like we work with you like regularly, so there's a whole community here. There's a whole bunch that we do with an organization. It revolves around a lot more than just strategic planning, but we have a complete plethora of systemization for your company. So we help you with financial planning. We skill members up, so we help them with being better salespeople, being better marketers, how to be better interviewers, how to be better basically leaders for their people, and how to execute on their goals properly. And we have awesome, just cool events, structured ways to hold you accountable and do group calls just like this, but live where everyone's video is up and mic's on, and we're going through things with you. And we have pretty cool getaways as well. So just give you an idea, like this is, I think I pulled this up from earlier, but this is actually the event where we actually, the form I just showed you, we spend a full day building out a business plan. This is the event where we do it. So every January, actually this is happening January 4th to the 7th in Banff in Alberta, but we drive everybody up in a big chartered bus. So I think we have about 90 people coming this year. And the plan is basically, let's get everyone away from the day-to-day. Let's pull everyone away from their crazy, job sites and all the stuff they're doing, and have some fun and build a bit of a strategic plan. And from there, we can actually coach you on that plan for the whole year. So this is basically, last year's. We did this up in Big White. But this is the kind of guys we work with, but we essentially had a full day where everyone sat down and just focused on their companies. Phones were off. There was no interruptions. We're up in the middle of freaking nowhere. So you're up in Canada where no one can get a hold of you in the bush, in the backcountry. And we had some fun. We did like an amazing race and got everyone to kind of bond and get to know each other a little better. We had an awesome night. I think we stayed up till 4 a.m. on one of these nights and got kicked out of the hotel. So we have a lot of fun too, but this is the classroom environment where we get you in, get you focused on the company and help you really build out your year. So our members are pretty engaged. Everybody's pretty similar. So everyone's kind of $500,000 to $5 million in revenue. A lot of painting, landscaping, and renovation companies. Other people in like plumbing and HVAC and electrical and moving and junk removal and all this kind of other trades. But everyone's in the trades and home services. They share ideas. We do industry panel stuff as well. So these guys are up on a panel talking about their success for the year and some of the things they've been through to be able to make this stuff real. And then we all focus together and build a business plan for everyone. And we have a lot of fun doing it. And that's just a piece to what we do at BTA, but this allows us to actually make sure we implement what we're doing with you properly. The thought process in this day really helps flush out all these ideas properly. And then from there, we hook you into that master business planning file that I was just showing you. We start to track stuff every week, and every 2 weeks we meet with you and go over different numbers that are ahead or behind, give you strategic advice, and then plug you into our knowledge library to really help you. And then, we have a bunch of fun too. These guys we went snowmobiling with and ice climbing, and it's just a awesome hangout time too, just to bond and get to know each other. So that's kind of some of the events, some of the content itself. So as you go through a lot of stuff with us, class like today, there's actually a lot more detail that goes into these things, but we spend a lot of time helping you through that stuff. So I'll give you an example here. We go through things like managing cash flow, doing performance reviews with your staff. Every quarter, we do a strategic plan review to see where you're at and adjust initiatives as needed, how to onboard key employees, all this different kind of stuff. And we've created a knowledge library. So beyond just doing this in live training with you online, we also created a knowledge library of videos and how-tos, so you can follow through on any of this kind of stuff or any key questions you have like an answer through video with explanations and training, and then also downloads for everything. So we basically created all your employee downloads, all your employee guidelines, all your employee how-tos, like all your standard operating procedures, all your employment agreements. Everything is drawn up for trades and home services, and we essentially allow you to use it all and just put your logo on it essentially and learn from how to use it, learn how to use it properly and really build your organization. Because I think most people, to do what I've just mentioned, build a strategic plan to build into their whole year, need assistance. They can't just do it on their own, and that's kind of what we're here to do. And we built a lot of stuff. I mean, I could probably go into it here for you and show you a bit of examples, but I go under like our content section. Like here's a list of just tools that we have, from financials to estimating to employment agreements, and everything's here. So your construction employment agreements for your project manager, like here it is, and here's an agreement. Here's an example agreement, and it's just the list goes on of what we've done. What we've kind of created for people is essentially like it's like a franchise system for them to follow without them being a part of a franchise. So everything has an explanation to it, a lesson to it, but also has an example file and a template. So here's like an employment agreement for a project manager, has all the details for what they need to deliver on, their accountables, all the details that go into a proper legal employment agreement. And then on top of that, we've also built it so that you can edit it. And in yellow, we've created custom places for you to make all your own edits as well. So not only are we teaching you a lot of stuff like this, but we're giving guidance and template support so you can build it a lot faster. Yeah.
I think I think Jane really, she made a comment in here. I really hit the nail on the head. Like she's wanted to build a lot of, like she was looking at the MVP file and she said, I've been wanting to create this, but I haven't had the time. And I think that's the story with a lot of entrepreneurs, right? I mean, it's hard to pull yourself out of the day-to-day so that you can build something. And then after you've built it, you actually have to implement it and execute on it. I think that's the value of these templates, and a lot of what Danny's showing is that you can skip the time needed to actually build it from scratch. We've done that for you.
Yep. Give you guys an idea. So we have a girl named Erin Kurbis who's full-time, and all she does 40 hours a week is create these 4 companies. So we can create them specifically for landscaping and renovations and painting companies. And we have like such specific templates at this point. We really she's literally like 3 years, 40 hours a week for 3 years has been building this stuff. And she's still continuing full time to do this. I think all in so far, development wise, we spent close to $400,000 on different development stuff that you guys can use. It's free. If you're a part of our membership and working with us actively, everything I just showed you is free. And as much as you need it or want it, we're there for you. And we also help you implement it properly. So surprise, that's why we wanted to talk to you today, right? At the end of the day, we've got a lot to offer. The message of what we do, and just looking at our website, I think it's hard to really understand the depth that we go, but it's pretty far, and I think we've done a damn good job of figuring out exactly how you guys, what you guys need next to grow the company. Long and behold, the reason why I know so much is because I've done it. I've run a paint company. I've been a part of trades organizations for many, many years. I've coached franchises. At this point, we have 130 members in Breakthrough Academy, all in trades and home services. Our average growth per member last year was 66% in revenue, and 44% the other way around, wasn't Andrew? It was 44% in revenue and 66% in profit, which is unbelievable. And we work hard to do this. We love our people that work with us, and we put everything we have into this. And this is what BTA is all about. So, questions on this? Thoughts on this?
Well, so feel free to put your questions in the chat box there. Maybe we can just touch on one that Matthew had asked a little bit earlier. It's product specific, so I don't know if you can answer it, Danny, but he's wondering if you're familiar with Trello at all, and if you know if Trello is adaptable to the block scheduling system.
It sounds like Benji is. I'm not actually. I didn't actually know what it was. Is it like an organization system? It helps you kind of organize your tasks and your ideas and thoughts into like one project plan. Is that kind of what it is? I've like heard of it, but I don't know. And Andrea, do you know what it is?
I don't. I've actually never used Trello myself, so
okay.
Yeah, you may. I mean, obviously, you could probably get in touch with Trello staff, Matthew, but I'll mention it to Benji, and if you guys are chatting, then he might be able to speak to it.
Sure. Yeah. So actually, this is good. So let's talk about how this all works for you guys, because basically, the next step is to talk to us, essentially. Like I can't talk to everybody today because there's a lot of us online, but what we've done is we built a request form for you guys. So I'll put it in the chat window again, but if everyone can just go here for a second, I'll just walk you guys through how to kind of get in touch with us, as well as how to get all the templates from today. So if everyone just wants to go to the chat window, I just put in the website. It's btacademy.com/request. So if everyone just go there for a second, I'll walk through like, how can we have these chats? How can we go through BTA properly with you? And how can you get the templates? It's kind of what this next step is for everyone. So if everyone goes there, btacademy.com/request. And I also just put it in the chat window. Once you're there, you click on the start button. We do ask for a lot of information, so more than your average probably person would, but there's a reason for it. We're basically intending to sit down with you for quite a while at some point to kind of figure out your business. So there's 2 things to do. One is to kind of just fill this out so you can get the templates, and you can down here just say, yep, I would like the templates, or no, I don't want them. And there's another thing that says, yes, I'd like to be considered for a one-on-one business assessment. If you don't want to sit down with us and don't want to talk to us and you just want the templates, it's all good. Just change the yes to a no. It's all good. Okay. For those who are interested, just keep it as a yes, and obviously keep the template thing as a yes. And please do fill this out with detail, because we're going to go through this. We're going to read through every single person's business application to really understand who you are. We're going to read through your website. It's important for us to know how many years you've been in business and how many employees you have, and some of your biggest challenges as well, just to make sure that we know where you're at in business and to make sure we can actually help you. We're built specifically for people, like I've been saying a lot of time, 500,000 to 5 million, trades and home service companies only, open-minded people that really want development and coaching and are willing to make change and like I say, 5 hours a week. We need you to put at least 5 hours a week into stuff like this with us. So by filling this out, this helps us get to know who you are, really understand who you are. No matter what, well, I'll send you all the templates. That's totally fine. But if we're going to sit down and do a one-on-one assessment with you, we really want to get to know who you are first. So fill this out. And then what we're going to do is me and Benji are going to read through every single one of these individually. We're then going to send you an email that says, hey, you've either been accepted or not into what we call a business assessment. So business assessments are 2 hours long, and they basically are a chance for us to get to know you a lot better one-on-one, go through BTA in detail, and more importantly, kind of get to know your business. We can run your business financials. We can look at your key challenges in detail and really give you some strategic advice and see if we can, as a company, actually help you. You might get another email that says, we would like to chat with you a bit further. So we might just want to do a quick 20-minute phone call first, get to know you a little bit better before we jump into a 2-hour call with you and actually just make sure this is the right fit for the two of us. Or we'll send you an email saying, hey, here's the templates. Maybe not a good fit for now, but if you want to chat with us, you can always reach out to us as well. So that's kind of next step. Yeah, and there's no cost for the assessment. So the reason we do this, like I have 100, like I said, I have 130 members that we work with. Benji and I have sat down one-on-one with every single one of them, and it's unbelievable watching them all come together for some of these events. They're all like-minded. They're all in the same place in business. They're all like very well screened and vetted so that we can help them, because we work with such a specific type of clientele. It allows us, like all these content and documents and things we're creating, it allows us to be very valuable to that specific audience instead of being like a generalist and doing a little bit of everything to everybody. We're very specific to a specific core of people. So if you're in a business where, like I said, $500,000 to $5 million in revenue, it's a trades or home service company, you're open-minded and really ready for coaching, we should probably chat. There's probably a lot of ingredients there that will make you a good fit for who we are. And then from there, we can kind of take some time one-on-one to get to know each other, and that time is worth it. I'll spend, I'll never charge for that. I'll spend time doing that all day long, because I think that it helps us get to know you, it helps you get to know us, and it helps us make a proper decision, because we don't work with people for a couple hours or a day or two. We work with people for 2 or 3 years, and we implement this stuff pretty deep into their company and get to know them extremely well, and it takes time to do that properly first, and that's what that assessment's all about. So if that makes sense.
And just so you guys know too, there's been a couple of comments on this. There isn't a cost for the assessment. I think, Danny's mentioned we're focused on wanting to work with the right people, so we're happy to spend that time doing a free assessment with someone if it's going to help them out in their business and if there's potentially a fit for us to work together.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we don't charge for that. So it's we're very giving people. I just want to get to know you first. That's the biggest thing. At the end of the day, like, we make money as a company because we have a bunch of members. They pay us monthly for what we do. We don't need to make money off of a one-off assessment with somebody. If I can just help you in your business and give you some insight, awesome. I'm totally happy to do that. There's a lot of people we've worked with where we'll do an assessment and a year later we'll work with them because it just wasn't the right time this year. But we stay in touch, we give them what they need, and we send them on their way, and they'll come back a year later. And I'm a big believer in just give liberally without asking much, and the right people come from that. So, and I've seen that time and time again. So big believer in that. And yeah, I think hopefully you see from today, like, it's just another experience kind of like this. We give a lot, we care a lot. We really are just looking for that right fit of people to work with. So that is BTA. So if you guys haven't started yet, just make sure you go to this site, btacademy.com/request. I think, Andrea, you put it in a couple times, so thanks for that. Click the start button. It just takes you down here, and you can start to fill this out. It takes about 5 to 10 minutes to do. It'll make sure, we know who you are, and we can kind of stay in touch with you. It'll give you all the templates as long as you keep this as a yes. And if you do want to be considered for a one-on-one business assessment, just keep this as a yes as well, and we'll review your responses of what you put in and assess it from there. So, yeah. So that's BTA, guys. That's what we're up to. Questions, thoughts? It could be about the content, could be about PTA, anything you guys want to know more. Anything you want to know more. Open book. We've got about 5 minutes here, so anything you want to know more, just feel free to type in the chat window, and Andrea, you can help with any questions.
You bet. Yeah, just waiting on some. Maybe just another note, there's a couple people that had a hard time with that form who have maybe international phone numbers, so I've now changed that. And you're welcome to try again. It should work.
Okay, cool.
Russ would just like to say thanks.
Cool.
Sweet.
Actually, what would be really good is I would love if you guys could chat in the chat window just to know how you guys did from today, from what I've taught. So what was your biggest learning from today? And what is one thing you feel you could actually take action on from what we talked about? So just type that in, maybe take a second to think about it, but like, what was your biggest learning from today? And what was one thing you feel you can actually take action on?
Any advice for people who are not as established in business? So that's coming from Aiden. Let's say they don't have the 500K revenue threshold you talked about.
I think that like building a business up to 500K, it's still important to have a business plan. It's still important to have goals. It's still important to build a budget for the year, but just not to obsess over it. I see different types of people out there. Like I see some people who are like grassroots entrepreneurs and all they do is go book work, produce work, make money, hopefully make money. I have no idea, just going hard, right? And it's just like at some level, they do still need to build a budget. They still need to see if their jobs are profitable and track do job tracking and job costing. They need to take time to do that, but not to such a level where I see the other side of people where I call them like Excel obsessed, where they're just sitting in Excel files all day long, building beautiful plans and ideas, but never actually executing anything. And you got to be careful not to be either one of those people, but to have a good balance. And when you're first starting, I don't know, like I would spend 90% of my time doing sales, marketing, and operations, and 10% of my time planning the company. And I think that's a healthy way to start your business and to keep things kind of in check. So as you get bigger, it gets more and more important to spend more of that time in planning and development versus the doing and action orientation stuff, and hire and develop people to take that stuff over from you. So it's a good question.
Yeah, and feel free to add your feedback from the session today, or your takeaways from the session today in the chat window, guys. Greg said that it's difficult to map out detailed plans and work towards annual goals, so he found it very helpful to see that one-page strat plan document, and then how to convert that into a critical path document.
Awesome. Yeah, guys. Yeah, no. So we'll send all that to you so you can start to work on it. Andrew, you've recorded this entire thing?
Yeah. So I'm going to post a recording. The recording will go out to everybody, regardless of whether or not you filled out the form. So you'll have that. But yeah, if you filled out the form, then you get the templates as well.
Cool. Awesome. That'll be good. So that'll be a good reference for people too. My son and I have not been in business for quite 2 years, and a lot of information. Yeah, you got it, guys. No worries. That's why we did this. So feel free to share this too. So I think when we send out the webinar, Andrea, I guess they could probably share it as well. Is it shareable?
Yeah, it'll be hosted on YouTube, so you can always share the YouTube page or forward the email out.
Cool. Yeah, and they can go through the same thing, and then from there they can, I think the website's pretty simple to understand, but if they want the templates, they just go to this website, so btacademy.com/request, and we'll have this open for quite a while, It's for people to download their stuff.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that'll be open for a little while. Russ has shared here that he feels that breaking down and achieving goals should be easier after today's session, so that's awesome. I think that was part of the point for us, so glad to hear that that's your takeaway, Russ.
Sweet, guys. Good. Any other little takeaways, nuggets, little sharing points, or things you guys want to take action on? I'll wait a minute. We got 2 more minutes, so I'll wait a little bit longer. It's good. There's some of you are typing. Yeah, what we got here. Cool. Yeah, you guys can do the assessment. So yeah, so I guess I'll just wrap it up with that. I mean, at the end of the day, this is why people do webinars. I hope this was a helpful webinar for everybody. I want to give you a sample and an idea of what we do as a company. It goes pretty deep. There's quite a bit to what we do, but for those of you who are interested in this and feel this could be a good fit for you and just want to learn more, your business is in need of structure and you're challenged with that, we should talk. I mean, I've built, and well, not just me, but we have a team of 13 that have built everything around helping you guys. And we've all been through this ourselves. Every single person that's works at BTA has run their own business in the trades before, has been trained in a very specific mannerism to be able to create structure for not only for themselves, but for other companies. And we've figured a lot of really cool stuff out that doesn't have to be on you to do it all alone from scratch. Like we've really just figured a lot of this stuff out. As a group, because we have 130 members, we a lot of money for all this to happen. Like we can really spread the cost to everybody. If we go do a development project for somebody, we'll charge them cost to do it, and then we'll share what we've learned and help everybody else along the way. I mean, I'm very much like a communalist. Like I believe in community and I believe in sharing, and I think that our generation is going more that way. And I think as we grow in business together, it makes us a lot stronger than trying to do it individually. So it's a big core value of BTA. Big thing about us, and I hope you've seen this from today, is we believe in just being real. We really have a genuine care about people, and we just embrace the journey. We're open to new ideas and new thoughts and new ways of doing things, and I think that's the best way to be. So that's who we are, and that's what we represent. And we have our strategic plan and what we want to achieve, and it really comes down to creating some awesome impact on you guys and building an awesome company too, and making some money along the way. So my next year, I shared with you guys a little bit, but I've got little girl coming. I have my third girl coming in April, and my next year for my business plan is going to revolve around still growing it as a business, but growing it without me being in every part of every day. And these webinars are a good example of that, where I'm trying to just spread the message, but do it as a group versus just one-on-one every day, because I think it takes an hour and a half to find out about BTA, right? So this is a good way to do it, and I appreciate you guys being a part of this.